Hello and welcome. This is Mouse Gunner, and we're back with some more from the depths. And what I'd like to do in this video, and possibly a number of videos in the future, is show off the different propulsion methods you can utilize in the game. So what I'll be showing in this video is what I've deemed the paddle steamer. Now, this is an alteration of my previous craft, which was a sail ship. So what I've done is I whacked off the sails, and that ship also had propellers as an alternative form of locomotion. Well, I've removed those as well. I've also removed the rear-facing cannons to allow for the paddles. Now, as far as the paddle setup goes, this is a much more complex setup than, just whacking on some propellers or using even sail power. What I've done is I have these 4 smaller paddles, which they're going to be 2 on each side. So we have 1, 2, and on the opposite side we have another 2. Now, these are used not only to propel the craft forward, but also to steer it. And then I have the main paddle in the rear. And because of that main paddle, as I said, I had to remove the rear-facing cannons. Otherwise, the cannon loadout is pretty much the same, other than we have this larger custom cannon on the front to kind of demonstrate how that works as well. I also have added these kind of smokestacks, which I put the engines in to kind of have a simulate a more real element here, and I'll go ahead and demonstrate there as I get the paddle kind of get going here. You can see the exhaust from the engines, which are up in these smokestacks, are coming directly out the top of the smokestack. So it kind of gives it a better visual appeal, makes it look a little bit more real, and that's kind of what I was going for. But in any case, I have these 2 engines, which are pretty much identical, both in the front and rear here of the smokestacks. And they are what power the paddles here. Now, this is kind of a slower speed here. And I can really get this thing cooking if I want. And let's go ahead and look at our information here so we can see kind of what speeds we have. So at max, I'm getting a little over 5 meters per second. But with the bobbing of the craft, you will have periods where the craft will slow down as the paddles raise and lower from the ocean. So as I'm going over waves, some of these paddles, I guess I should say, not propellers, will raise a little bit above the ocean, and you won't get quite as much power out of them. Initially, I only had 1 paddle block, essentially. If I go ahead and as far as the controls go, I have this more complex controller here, and then I also have a controller that controls the spin blocks. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the engine here so we can kind of look at things. The main reason I have these 2 controls is with this control, there's no means of turning off the control, so I have to use this alternative spin block controller to turn it off. In any case, if we look at how this thing is controlled, pretty much the spin blocks here go off into a wood block, and then I have the paddle blocks here. Now, initially, I only had 1 paddle block, but I noticed that didn't get deep enough in the water to really propel the thing, and at best, I think I was getting a little under 3 meters a second. So you see, by adding another paddle block in here, I could get a little bit further into the ocean and get a lot more power into the stroke of the paddle there. So that improved things quite a bit. But essentially, what I've done with these spin blocks, and if we can go ahead and if I hit Q on this, you can kind of see what I have here. So I set them up for continuous motion. I set them up for motor drive so that the engines we have are actually propelling these, are actually controlling how much power they get transferred there. The drive for action, this is essentially, if you wanted to slow down the speed a little bit, so to, sync up different paddles, you can. And then for my main paddle, I just have U and J. So U is reverse direction, J is forward direction, for as far as the spin block is concerned. So the way the spin block is oriented, U actually goes forward and J goes actually to the rear. But as far as the spin block is concerned, you have to reverse it. And to do these things, all you have to do is you just click on whatever you want to. So if I wanted to control this with H, making it positive, I click once. To make it negative, I click again. And to get it so it doesn't do anything, I click yet again. So let's look at a little bit more complex set up here. So if we go to the side-facing paddles here and we get to the spin block, we can see we've set it up, you know, U and J making it go forward and reverse, and H and K making it go forward and reverse. And then we kind of have synced the other propellers so that we can get this thing to turn. So essentially what happens is, if I come back over here and if I put this thing on full lock to H, it will start turning to the left. If I put it on full lock to K, it will start reversing that and go back the other way, and we'll start turning right. That's pretty much how it works. If I hit U, it will eventually have everything going straight forward. If I hit J, eventually the paddles will start reversing. That's pretty much how the controls work as far as the way I've set it up. But because I'm using this block here, you don't see any of the key layout like you do on some of the other controllers, because I've all custom mapped it, so it doesn't have that kind of, you know, cheat sheet. Now, if I go forward, full forward, and then I hit to the left, what's going to happen is my main paddle here is still going to go forward, but I'm now controlling the paddle, so I'm still going to get that steer to the left. Now, if I want to just start going forward again, I hold in U. That will start getting my other paddles, the smaller paddles, to start going to the front, and then we start going forward. So it's a little bit more complex movement, but in the end, it does work pretty well, and this is the best way I could get this to function. And then if I want the thing to go to a full stop, again, I'm going to have to go to the rear here, go to my alternate controls, and hit T and G together to stop the engines. Now, I could try and manually stop them, but I'd never really get it perfect to being able to stop it, so that's why I kind of have that cut off. If I want to stop the engines really quickly, I just run back here, hit T and G, and we're good to go. All right, well, now that I've demonstrated kind of how this thing works, let's go ahead and throw some combat into the mix, and we'll fight. Last time I fought the Sea Vipers, which is one of the smaller craft. We'll fight a Vanguard, which is a little bit bigger enemy. And let's see where they are. Well, let's hit tab here and get a view here. All right, they're right behind us. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to start turning. Oh, I actually hit reverse here, not turn. So let's pull forward and start turning. Unfortunately, I'm getting plastered here. But eventually I'll turn around and we'll start getting our cannons to fire because they're controlled by the AI. And now our main gun up here, our custom cannons, can start firing. Okay. I think at this point, I think we can just go straight forward. Not exactly sure why our main gun isn't firing. There we go. And we're going to get a broadside here eventually. So let's start turning to the right. Now we've soaked up quite a bit of damage here, but now the turret in the front is only meant to be able to turn 180 degrees, so it only has a limited arc of fire. Obviously, we don't want it to turn any more than that because it has a limited viewpoint anyway. And we just lost our main paddle there. So we can see how under rough, you know, combat conditions, how this thing fares. Definitely is vulnerable to having the paddle get knocked off there. But our main gun's going to start getting in line here. Let's start turning to the left here so we can get our full broadsides. And turn back around. Let's even reverse. Of course, I think if we reverse, it might actually not be turning the direction I want it to. Oh, that's right. We lost our main paddle, so all we can do is turn. That's how we see how we're doing on this side. So it looks like we have only one of our paddles functioning, as the collision there just completely tore off. All right. But luckily our guy's close enough so that we can repair. Okay, so eventually we'll turn here. And let's get our character back here so maybe we can start repairing bits of our main paddle. We won't be able to control our movement, but that's okay. Oh, he's hitting us with a ram here. Doing a lot of damage. And he's actually going to flip us over here. That's not good. But that little thing on the front there is his ram. He's doing us a fair bit of damage. But our cannons are starting to get a shot on him. Doing a fair amount of damage to us. Let's see about maybe controlling our craft here to get it to get away from this guy. So I'm going to go full forward here. No more turning. Taking a lot of damage to our fellers. Big explosion there, as I think we've knocked him out pretty good. Probably hit an ammo source there. So we can see some of the vulnerabilities of this style of propulsion is you can get your paddle knocked off. Let's turn around here and start firing again. And probably once I get it turned around, I'm gonna turn off our engine. I wonder why we're not firing. Did we lose our AI controls? I think we might have lost our AI controls. Either that or that's not an enemy anymore because we knocked out its main control unit. Could very well be the case. Alright. I would say more or less we've knocked that guy out of action. Let's get turned around here a little bit. Alright, obviously need to aim a little higher. We'll just unload on this guy. Sometimes it can take quite a while to knock somebody out. And if you're wondering what all that green stuff is, that's not only experience, which you collect and level up in the vehicle mode here when you destroy stuff, but I think it's also resources if you were playing the campaign mode. But I think this is demonstrated pretty well. The craft in question, but also some of its weaknesses. So let's go ahead and turn up the engine here. So as we come out here, we have progressively repaired our craft here. So we've gotten the paddle back, all our paddles back. But you can see kind of the weakness of this. If you're under heavy combat, all they have to do is hit this one block here, knock off your paddle, and you're screwed pretty much. But, I mean, you could add armor around the paddle to try and protect it. That's one thing you could do, and kind of encase it so that it's not easily destroyed like that. So there's a number of things you can do to make this a little bit more practical. In any case, I hope you guys have enjoyed this look at a paddle steamer, and hopefully we can come out with some more ways of propulsion and maybe start getting into some more funky ideas. I hope you have enjoyed. This is Mouse Gunner, signing out.